Wassup YouTube, PokePrimer here, finally ready to deliver you our Week 5 recap for the IPBL here on the channel. This is a very interesting week of competition, and now with only 2 weeks left, every single match counts for every team to really solidify themselves in the standings overall for the rest of the season. So, very interesting week, to say the very least. Some very good matchups, and a winless team finally dug themselves out of the holes, so that's some really cool stuff to see. As usual, the battle links to the showdown will be in the description below, so you guys can go down and watch the full matches at your leisure, so you can really see what all went down. But without further ado, let's get into the first match of the week, which was the Carolina Cutie Flies taking on the Detroit Drampas, and the Cutie Flies pulled off an impressive 5-0 victory over the Drampas. The Cutie Flies decided to bring the Mega Metagross, Victini, Diancie, Jolteon, Drapion, and Haxorus, while the Detroit Drampas brought their Megalodios, Archeops, Cresselia, Lomamola, Weavile, and Tangrowth. Right off the bat, really early into the match, Archeops ended up getting sacked off to Jolteon, which I didn't really understand because Archeops had a lot of potential in this matchup. A lot of potential to really pressure the Victini, the Diancie, the Drapion. I mean, Jen had nothing on her team that wanted to switch into an Earthquake from an Archeops with that insanely high attack stat. So if she got it in on something she was faster than, she's going to cause a lot of damage, the Archeops can cause a lot of damage and really tear holes in Jen's team. But he decided to sack it really early off, which really didn't make any sense to me. But he was feeling sick this week, so his thought processes weren't all there. So I can't really fault him too much on a lot of what went down in the matchup. I just wanted to make sure that was noted, so that nobody gave him too much shit for that. But from there, a Poison Jab Poison from the Drapion allowed the Lomamola to be whittled down very easily, with a few tiny hits here and there. Mega Metagross was able to pick up a +1 attack boost off of a Meteor Mash, which allowed it to plow through 2 of Ronnie's Mons very easily, and until it was eventually shut down by a Night Slash from the Weavile, which I don't understand why everybody runs Night Slash. Why does everyone run Night Slash? I've never run it, and I've never had an issue with my Weaviles. But that's just me, I guess. I mean, Banded Knockoff still does a retarded amount of damage, just saying. But, Weavile just kind of nuked the Metagross before it could do anything else. But at that point, his team was just too whittled down to really be a threat. And Drapion and Jolteon came in and teamed up and tore through what was remaining, which led the Cutie Flies to a 5-0 victory over the Drampas. Really solid match for Jen, again showing off how good she is. She's picked up this whole competitive battling thing pretty much just naturally, and she's just amazing at it. So huge props to her for the victory. Again, Ronnie is, at this point, I feel like it's a matter of looking for that #1 draft pick at this point to hopefully end this season off the best you can, but hopefully start the season off really strong next season. With that, we're going to move on to our next match, which is one of the more important matches of this week, being the Charlotte Zolanids taking on the Tony Typhlosions. Now, I took over for Chris and the Zolanids this week because he needed a substitute because his girlfriend / fiance was visiting from, I believe, Norway is where she's from, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure if they are engaged or not yet. I hope I'm not rushing anything, Chris. My bad, buddy. But so she was visiting, so he asked me if I could cover for him this week, so that he could enjoy the time with her, which I was absolutely 100% okay with, because I can attest to the love thing, but I decided for his team that I was going to bring the Mega Sableye, Suicune, Raikou, Infernape, Scizor, and Registeel, while the Typhlosions decided to bring Meltank, Jirachi, Kyurem Black, Rhydon, Togetic, and Darmanitan. So, right off the bat, early game, we were able to reveal one of Justin's sets being a special specs Jirachi that did over 75% to Mega Sableye turn 1 with a Moonblast, which was absolutely devastating. It did so much damage, and really showed, and that set itself was very threatening to the Salandit's team. There's really not too much that they can do about it, so it was a very scary situation right off the bat to deal with. Togetic and Meltank together, with their amazing cleric abilities and their bulk, were able to really slow the pace of the matchup down for a long period of time, which is really impressive to see that interesting core work is so well of these low tier mons. Kyurem's Fusion Bolt as well was really threatening towards the Suicune, as the Fusion Bolt was a guarantee to a KO, so that meant that as long as the Kyurem was around, Suicune could not set up. Could not set up at all, because it was a standard Crocoon set. It was 100% standard Crocoon, which has no way of touching a Kyurem Black. So at that point, Suicune was just kind of scared out and couldn't do anything about it. At that point, a lot of situations ended up in this match where something had to get sacked off. Something had to get sacked off, and in this case, it just ended up being Raikou. Switched Raikou into a Fusion Bolt and just fired off of an Aura Sphere, because at this point, looking at the Typhlosion's team, Raikou is only really good against the Togetic for its stab, but it couldn't freely fire its stab off with the Rhydon just sitting right there. So it was a matter of just trying to figure out what was the least valuable to us at the time. Like, Aura Sphere's not doing much to Meltank, Aura Sphere's not doing too much to Rhydon. It was a matter of, priorities, and bringing that thing in, letting it drop to an outrage from Kyurem was the best bet, because then we were able to freely bring in Scizor and bullet punch the hell out of the Kyurem, taking that thing out. But Darmanitan came in, and again, it was a situation where what is least useful to me right now? I was essentially keeping the Mega Sableye as death fodder at this point. I wanted it as death fodder so I can get a free switch into something. So that was the plan there. Yeah, so Scizor was sacked off. It was the Watmelberry natural gift set to try and counter the Typhlosion's Mega Scizor, but it didn't work, because he didn't bring it. So unfortunateness is unfortunate, but yeah, so that happened. And then after a very well timed sack of the Mega Sableye, a revenge kill from Infernape after said sack, and a sacking of the Registeel, we were able to get a situation where Suicune was in against the Meltank and was able to just start setting up Calm Minds. And at that point, it was pretty much game over, because the only things on the Typhlosion's team that could really have stopped Suicune were the Specs Jirachi with Thunder, which was still in the back, but I guess he didn't want to try to switch it in because he didn't want to take a hit, potentially get critted or burned or whatever, because he was already down at a decently low enough amount of HP that a crit burn or whatever would take him out, so he didn't want to take that risk. And the Kyurem could stop it, which was already dead. So Suicune just set up Calm Minds, rested off damage and statuses, and then just proceeded to Scald, and until 4 kills later, the match was over, leading the Salandits to a 2-0 victory over the Typhlosions. Really solid match, really back and forth match. Justin really showed a lot of how much he's improved in this league format of play throughout the entire season. He's improved week to week to week, and it definitely shows here in this match. He has a huge chance for playoffs. There's almost no way he's not making playoffs at this point. So huge props to him on that. But I wish him definitely all the best of luck going into those playoffs, because he's gonna be the one to beat. I think he might be the one to beat. He's gonna definitely give whoever makes it in second place in his division, and whoever makes it in overall into the finals from our division is gonna have a tough time handling him. I truly believe that. But with that one, we're going to move on to our third matchup, which is the Pittsburgh Poplios taking on the Hereford Goudras, and the Poplios were able to pull off a 4-0 victory this week. The Poplios prepped literally 10 minutes before the match, so very impressive. Just kind of throw a team together and pull off the victory. But one thing that I know that I saw was a huge fairy weakness on the opponent's team, so I figured I would try to exploit that as my win condition. So the Poplios decided to bring the Mega Banette, offensive Mega Banette, Spadef, Zapdos, Belly Drum, Slurpuff, I believe Banded Sneasel, physically defensive Amoonguss, and a Specs Volcanion. Against the Goudras, who decided to bring their mascot Goudra, Scrafty, Absol, Sylveon, Espeon, and Zard Y. Right off the bat, early game, again, was able to frisk the Life Orb on the Scrafty, seeing that it is an offensive variant with regular Banette's ability, and was able to counter it appropriately by having a free Will-O-Wisp to fire off turn 1. So either we were burning the Scrafty or we were burning whatever came in, and nothing that came in was going to want that burn. But he decided after a few moments that I guess the Absol was his least valuable member. Looking at the matchup, I can maybe kind of see it, but it could have been a good revenge killer for the Banette. But he brought the Absol in, and Banette just kind of said, nope, I'm going to burn you, and you're going to crit me with a Night Slash, but I'm still going to kill you in the long run. So, die. So, Banette put in a lot of work early game. Pretty much made it so that the Absol was a non-problem early on, which is really nice. Then we ended up in a situation where the Zard Y hit the field, and nothing really wanted to take a Fire Blast except for Volcanion. So into Volcanion, and the prediction was very nice. Very good prediction on Jacob's part. He knew the only thing that could come into that was Volcanion, so he goes for the Solar Beam, smacks Volcanion with a Solar Beam, gets a low roll, and then proceeds to get a higher roll the following turn, and KO the Volcanion. Did 49% the first time and 51% the second, so it's not too big of a roll, but still, it was interesting. It was just luck on his side to get the perfect rolls he needed at those times. And the Volcanion, which could have done a large chunk of damage to the Zard Y, even in the sun with the Steam Eruption, would have done a large chunk of damage to the Zard. Was KO'd immediately, which is very unfortunate. Zapdos then came in and was able to eat a Fire Blast. I say eat loosely because it took like 70%. And then fire off a Volt Switch, putting the Zard in range for a Banded Sneasel to come in and revenge it with an Icicle Crash, which was very awesome. Very awesome to see. Just also to note, Ice Shard would not have KO'd, so Icicle Crash was the best play in that scenario. So there it is. Spadef Zapdos completely walled his Goudra, was able to just roost up on the Goudra like it was nothing, avoiding the super effective damage on the Ice Beams as it went along, which is great stuff. So that's really cool. Zapdos ended up just being a nuisance, just walling things. Mega Banette ended up in a 1v1 matchup against the Sylveon, where clearly the Sylveon didn't want to take a gunk shot, but then again, nothing at that point wanted to take one. So into Espeon we go, and dead Espeon we see, because gunk shot just absolutely nuked it. Absolutely destroyed it. And at that point, it was about time to sack off our good buddy Banette. So into the Goodra he goes, sacking the Banette we do, and into Slurpuff it is time. We drummed on that belly, ate that citrus, and Slurpuff went to work cleaning up the Goodra, the Scrafty, and the Sylveon, and picking up a 4-0 victory for the Pittsburgh Poplios. Slurpuff putting in nothing but the finest once again, because it's just that damn good. Anyone who thinks that Slurpuff is trash themselves. So, good match to Jacob, good GG to him. Really, really well played. It was just a matter of Slurpuff just countered the team. Slurpuff just hard countered the team and had an easy setup fodder on Goodra. If it wasn't packing a poison move, which actually, even if it was packing a poison move, I calced it, I believe it would have only done about 50%. And unless he poisoned us, we were pretty much safe to go. Because even the Scrafty's fake out only did about 15%. So unless it critted us, we would have been fine. So there's a lot of scenarios that could have happened that would have made things worse, but overall, very good match on both sides, and Pittsburgh Poplios win 4-0. The final match is our Win This team digging themselves out of the hole, and that is the Alabamaarcanines picking up their 2-0 victory over the Massachusetts Charizards. The Charizards, coached by Josh, were taken over by Ronnie for this week, and Ronnie decided to bring the Mega T-Tar, the Florges, the Milotic, Delphox, Trevenant, and Skuntank, while Juwan and the Alabamaarcanines brought the Tornadus T, Arcanine, Mega Swampert, Tangela, Crocodile, and the Spiritomb. Very, very interesting matchup here. Turn 1, Spiritomb and Mega T-Tar set up on each other. Dragon Dance for Calm Mind, so very, very interesting to see that turn 1 of the match. But then the Spiritomb decided to set up a Rain Dance, which is very interesting to see. It Rain Danced on the T-Tar's second Dragon Dance, and then switched itself into... I believe it switched itself into Swampert to take the hit. Mega evolved and then just died because Mega T-Tar was faster in the rain because it's one base speed point higher than Mega Swampert, so Swampert wasn't gonna outspeed the Mega T-Tar in the rain. It wasn't gonna do it. It was a really poor play on Jawan's part at the very, very start of the matchup. It was just a very, very weird way to just lose your Mega Swampert right off the bat like that. I was confused by it. I still don't get it right now, just sitting here. But what can you do? Now, this scenario allowed Jawan to go into his Tangela, eat up an Outrage, Giga Drain, get some damage off, and then proceed to beat the Mega T-Tar after it hit itself in Confusion, which was really, really great. Really, really great to see Tangela 1v1ing a Mega T-Tar and winning. If the T-Tar hadn't gone for Outrage, if the T-Tar had gone for something like Earthquake or something along those lines, that would have guaranteed still been a 2-hit KO on the Swampert and whatnot, and been able to still switch its moves up, say go for a Crunch on the Tangela. I don't believe that the Tangela would have been able to beat it, and I do believe that the Mega T-Tar could have, in turn, swept the remainder of Juwan's team very, very easily. But, again, mistakes were made. Ronnie was sick, so I can't really fault him on that prep portion. I mean, I'd never run Outrage on Mega T-Tar just because I don't like it. Unless your opponent has like a very scary, bulky Dragon type, I think there's no reason for it, in my opinion. But that's just me. But so Mega T-Tar went down to the Tangela, and then Banded Crook. Banded Crocodile is just a threat. Skuntank picks off the Tangela, Banded Crook comes in, goes for an Earthquake, as the Milotic tries to switch in, taking the hit. No, it's not taking a hit. It takes like 70%, and just gets 2 KO'd right off the bat. Banded Crook is just scary. Banded Crook is scary. And then Bulky Arcanine was actually able to switch in and take on the Florges, which came in there shortly after, which is very, very awesome stuff. Our Bulky Arcanine's a really, really good set. I love Bulky Arcanine. Burns the Florges and just smashes it with Flare Blitz until it dies. Morning Sun's off any damage. It's just such a good Pokemon. Florges just didn't stand a chance against it. Calmine Spiritomb was able to come in and take on the Delphox very nicely. Was able to pretty much just 1v1 it and blow it away. And at that point in the matchup, it was just a matter of time before Banded Crook came in and ended the life of the Trevenant. So overall, a very well-played match by both sides. Couple of weird plays, but you know, what can I say? You know, it happens. Everyone makes mistakes. But the big silver lining here is that the Alabamaarcanines come out with a 2-0 victory over the Massachusetts Charizards, picking up their first win of the season. With that, guys, we've completed our matches for this week, and we're going to move now into the MVP rankings. The first place Mon in the league, looking to be drafted, looking to be franchised by whoever the champion is this season, is Suicune, with 11 kills, 0 deaths, and a plus 11 differential from the Charlotte Salandits. Then we have Mega Metagross. Mega Metagross sitting at 9-3 with a plus 6 differential from the Carolina Cutie Flies. At 8-2 with a plus 6 differential from the Charlotte Salandits, we have Infernape taking up that number 3 spot. Moving down to the remainder of the countdown, we have Slurpuff 7-0 with plus 7 differential from the Pittsburgh Poplios. We have Haxorus 6-1 with a plus 5 differential from the Carolina Cutie Flies. We have Feraligatr, who's 5-0 with a plus 5 differential from the Tony Typhlosions. We have Mega Banette 5-1 with a plus 4 differential from the Pittsburgh Poplios. We have Manaphy, who's 5-2 with a plus 3 differential from the Hereford Gudras. Zapdos is 4-1 with a plus 3 differential from the Pittsburgh Poplios. And then last place we have, in 10th place, we have Scizor, who is 4-2 with a plus 2 differential from the Charlotte Salandits. So again, at this point in the season, you can see that the countdown's a lot more offensive once again, as I do believe it normally should be. You know, Mons like Scizor, Manaphy, Feraligatr, Haxorus, Slurpuff even, you know, set up sweepers that can do a lot of damage. Mega Banette, heavily offensive Mon, very hard hitter. Zapdos is a very hard hitting, bulky Mon that can do a lot of damage. Infernape's a very offensive Mon. Mega Metagross is very offensive. Suicune is the one that is the most surprising because it is meant to be more of a bulky Mon, but at the same time it is a top-notch setup sweeper that if you don't have the right thing to handle it, it's just going to end you, and that's it. You can't win that. You don't win that. So, huge props to Chris this season for using Suicune so well and showing off its true power, and hopefully it can stay at the top for these last 2 weeks, and whoever the champion wins will have the absolute right to scoop up Suicune prior to next season, and that would be fantastic for them because Suicune is a dope-ass Pokemon. Well, with every winner, there's always got to be a loser, and with that, we go into our league losers. Still, only one at the very, very bottom of the list, and that is Florges. Florges is currently sitting at 0-4. All 4 times that it showed up to a match, it died. Did no damage, killed nothing, just died. And it's really, really unfortunate to see because a lot of Wish Protect stalling could be done, Toxicking could be done, but the Florges just isn't getting a chance to do any of its typical normal shenanigans, which is very unfortunate to see, because Florges is a very, very good mon, but just isn't doing what it needs to be doing, and it's very unfortunate to see. But what can you do? Hopefully, at this point, if Josh doesn't want it to get banned for next season, if Josh doesn't want it out for next season, he maybe wants a chance to scoop it back up again. Maybe he should not use it the next couple weeks, and hope that something else that's lower on the totem pole comes and gets beat up in Florges' place. Maybe, but I just don't see it going well. I don't see it going well at all for Florges at this point, and I feel like Florges is going to be sitting out for IPBL Season 2. To get away from the losers and get to a more positive scenario, we move now to the league standings, which are looking extremely interesting this week. Kanto Division, we are looking at a perfect tie across the board for first place. The Charlotte Slanets and the Pittsburgh Poplios, both 5-0 with a plus 16 differential. Very, very interesting, and it gets more interesting as we get into next week's matchups. Following behind, we have the Carolina Cutie Flies that are 3-2 with a plus 9 differential. I find it really interesting that the two losses that the Cutie Flies have suffered. Sorry, my throat's a little bit messed up. The Cutie Flies, the two losses that they've suffered have been to the two teams tied for first place in the division. I just think that's very interesting to note. That's her only two losses in these number one teams in the league. Really, really crazy stuff. And then in last place for the division, we have Josh and the Massachusetts Charizard sitting at 1-4 with a minus 14 differential. At this point, he's just kind of hoping for the better draft picks at this point. He should start looking to try to avoid using Florges if he can, just so that Florges doesn't get knocked out in next season. But, if Florges is his choice, then Florges it be. And, that can do. Moving on over to the Johto division, first place is Justin and the Tony Typhlosions with a 3-2 record, plus 4 differential. Very commanding lead. There's almost no way that he can lose the division at this point. Unless somehow the Arcanines and Goodras just win out the rest of the season, there's almost no way that he can lose this. So kudos to him for coming out on top in the division. Very, very impressive season for him so far. Very impressed by it. Following behind him right now is the Alabamaarcanines, who are 1-3 with a minus 3 differential. Just to make note, the Arcanines, all of their losses were very, very tiny losses. They weren't huge blowouts. They've only lost like 1 or 2-0 most weeks. So they've been on a tear as of late. So they've been doing extremely well. It's just been maybe 1 or 2 little misplays that led to their demise. So definitely huge chance for them to really pull ahead now. Now that they have a little bit of momentum going, which is really awesome. Following closely behind, we have the Hereford Goodras, who are also 1-3 with a minus 9 differential. For those of you who haven't watched previous ones, the Alabamaarcanines and Hereford Goodras records don't match up perfectly because their Week 4 matchup had to be postponed to the end of the season. Their Week 4 match is going to be taking place in the 1 week between the end of Week 7 and the beginning of playoffs. So definitely keep your eye out for that, as that's going to be one heck of a matchup. And since they're tied in record, it's going to be really, really cool to see, because basically whoever wins that matchup is going to they'll essentially switch spots on the leaderboard. And then in last place overall in the league, And in the Johto division, we have the Detroit Drampas, coached by Ronnie, 0-5 with a -19 differential. It's looking really good for the Detroit Drampas to get that first pick this year, unless something crazy goes down and he starts winning the remainder of his games. I think it's going to be a shoo-in that he's going to be able to scoop up that #1 spot. And hopefully that can allow him to net a better draft and maybe do a lot better this season than this previous season. So best of luck to Ronnie in that sense. But without further ado, let's get into next week's matchups, which makes things all the more interesting. The marquee match of the week is going to be the Pittsburgh Poplios taking on the Charlotte Salentics. Finally, the clash of the Titans is taking place, where the two #1 teams in the league are about to face off, essentially for supremacy of the division and supremacy of the league in general. Like the Pittsburgh Poplios and Charlotte Salentics are tied right now, undefeated, same differential. So whoever wins this is getting #1 in the division, 100%. So a lot riding on this game, a lot, and whoever loses this could potentially, that negative momentum could bring them down to lose again, and Jen could potentially sneak her way into playoffs, which could be very detrimental to either one of these teams. So it's a must-win situation. If whichever team wins, guarantees 100% a playoff spot. 100% guaranteed playoff spot for the team that wins this week, which is insanely awesome. Both teams have had fantastic seasons so far. Both teams have done extremely well throughout the entirety of the season. Really, really awesome stuff on both sides. Really impressed with both teams. So it's going to be an absolute crazy matchup. I can't wait for that one to go down. The next matchup, going over to the Johto division, we have the #1 in the division, Justin, the Tony Typhlosions, taking on Jacob in the Hereford Gudras. And to be honest, this is going to be a tough match for Justin. His team doesn't match up very decently against the Gudras. You know, some of the Gudras' offensive threats like Manaphy, Zardwai, and Gudra really shut down some of his marquee threats. You know, Gudra and Manaphy are easy switch-ins to Darmanitan. Manaphy can stop Feraligatr if it wanted to. Ferrothorn could really hard stop Feraligatr if it wanted to. Ferrothorn stops Feraligatr hard. Like there's a lot of things that stop a lot of Justin's offense. It's going to be a matter of who plays better in this game. I truly do think Jacob has the team matchup, but Justin has shown that the team matchup doesn't matter and he can play through that. So we'll see what happens this week. It's going to be a really, really good game there. I'm really looking forward to that one. So that's going to be awesome. Next matchup we have is going to be Jen and the Carolina Cutie Flies taking on Josh and the Massachusetts Charizards. Again, you know, this is the point in the season where every match for these top teams is must win. Jen has to win this match. Absolutely has no choice but to win this match. If Jen wins this match, then she still has a moderate chance to come into playoffs. Like if certain scenarios are met, she could still make playoffs. So it's no joke at this point. This is going to be a very, very tight situation for her, but she could definitely still make the playoffs. Without a doubt, she could definitely make playoffs still. I hold nothing against her. She can definitely pull it off. It's just going to be a matter of putting her A game in every single week and making sure she does the very best she can. I think she can do it. It's just going to be a matter of her proving that she can. And I think there's definitely a chance here this week. She has the team matchup against Josh. Josh's team just can't really stand up to the Mega Metagross offense. He really doesn't have anything that could stop Mega Metagross. So he's just going to kind of have to struggle around that as best he can. hopefully maybe pull something out, but at this point in the season it's a matter of just trying to preserve his team to the best he can so that his team doesn't fall too low in the ranking. The last match this week is going to be Ronnie and the Detroit Drampas versus Juwan and the Alabamaarcanines. And after picking up their first win this week, the Arcanines are looking very, very good. But Ronnie actually has a somewhat decent team matchup this week against Juwan, so this could go either way. And you know, if Ronnie wins this matchup, he can bring himself out of his deep hole and potentially, you know, start picking up some momentum that he can at least take with him into next season. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this goes. He definitely has a potential to win. So we'll see if he can pull it off. I think he can, but you know, you never know. Anyone can win on any day when it comes to Pokemon, so that's just the way I see it. But it's going to be a really good match overall. I'm looking forward to all the matches for Week 6. It's going to be crazy. But with that, guys, I'm gonna start ending things off here. If you guys enjoyed, please make sure to leave a like down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank y'all for watching. Until next time, I'm PokePrimer, signing off.